You're listening to From a Certain Point of Skew, the only Star Wars podcast that drops episodes so infrequently that it keeps our listeners guessing and yearning for more. That is right. That's you. You're yearning. We're here. Who am I? Jason the Angry Ginger Jedi Guy, broadcasting live from inside the very first, only, and probably will always be the only Wookiee Poo Studios. Not alone, though. Darth Mathias on the screen, ready to chit-chat all things Star Wars. Did you go through, how many boxes of clearance did you go through for the cancellation of the Acolyte? You okay?
I'm doing okay. I'm hanging in there.
Okay.
I can't believe how long it's been since we recorded. It's great to be on mic with you again because I look back to see what our episodes were, and like the last few, it was like we reviewed the finale for the Acolyte in July, like late July.
That's how long ago?
Yep. And then in late August, we did like a D23 news dump.
Yeah. Yep.
And then in like, I think middle of September, we had Albert on and did kind of the look back on the entire season of Acolyte. And that's it. So basically, in the last 3+ months, we've done like 3 episodes.
Wow, this feels normal to me. It's like on hiatus.
That's right. That's back. Yeah, so it's good to be back. It's one of those things where I thought, this is unacceptable for our listeners. And so I apologize from the bottom of my heart that we have not been getting our episodes out. We are going to be more frequent once we get into Skeleton Crew, but for now we're still trying to do the every other week. We'll probably do one more before
we're gonna make it work.
Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
And by the way, tip of the cap to all our fellow Star Wars podcasters, because they're out there churning these fucking episodes out,
the content out. Yeah,
and it's been pretty scarce on the news front when it comes to Star Wars. I mean, we have a bunch of stuff to go through because we've been off for a while.
Right.
But man, I'm impressed by everybody still continuing to put out weekly episodes because it's not easy right now.
There making shit up. I was about to write you and be like, do I need to write some stories?
Well, you always need to write stories.
I'm willing to do it, but like it didn't, there was no, I didn't hear anything about the second one we did you? So I was like, oh, what's the point?
Well, it's almost like anecdotal, like my neighbor who provided us with some of the giveaway stuff a couple things ago. He's like, your stories are better than the From a Certain Point of View books. And I was like, well, thank you very much.
Oh, now I will write more.
Yes. And so I think some people enjoy them. We didn't get as much feedback as we were hoping for, but hey, it's not going to stop us from doing a volume 3 of FACPAtoid sometime in 2025.
That's right.
I would imagine.
That's right.
If you would like to find our show from a certain point of skew.com or on Twitter at FACPApod, you can email the show, FACPApod@gmail.com. And we do still have a voicemail line. In fact, I got a notification the other day that was like, you need to use this line or we will reclaim the number. So I had to
Did you call it and leave yourself a voicemail?
The app on my phone and text message myself and all this stuff. So hopefully it sticks. That number is 678-FACPA77. So that's 678-322-7277.
On the show today, woo! Question of the week. What timeline story do you want to see in a future Star Wars video game? That's right. If you were the creator, if you could say the story, you tell us. We'll share it, on the next episode? No, we're going to share it on this episode.
This episode. We just got a couple answers.
It's been a while. I got to remember how the show works. In the news, Mando and Grogu filming wraps. What the hell is going on with the Rey movie? That's a big question. James Mangold up next. Donald Glover wants to make Star Wars fun again. Andor Season 2 updates. We've got Ahsoka Season 2 starts filming in 2025, which is, that's a big, when in 2025.
Right.
And then Ewan wants Obi-Wan Season 2. Will he get it? I think he's going to get a movie. We'll talk about that. Okay. And we're going to check in on the Star Wars Outlaws with Darth Mathias himself. And we've got one email in the Maul Bag.
So a pretty packed show. My Star Wars Outlaws thing might not take too long, but we'll get through it there. The question of the week. I put out, Matt has been sneaking in some, by the way, I put this question of the week out 4 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
And we got a couple answers right away, and then everybody forgot about it. I probably should have recycled that one.
Shared it a little bit, yeah.
So Matt has been sneaking in some hours on Star Wars Outlaws, and it got us thinking, what era and storyline would you like to see as a future Star Wars video game project? Got a couple answers. Adelphi Rangers says an X-Wing simulator, of course, that starts with the Battle of Endor and finishes up with the Battle of Jakku. The first DLC includes a new Republic mission in the Outer Rim, staging from the Adelphi Rangers base on Adelphi. Second DLC includes working on, for Mon Mothma. That doesn't sit well with you.
Yeah. Better, working for is fine. You better, you know what? Take that on out of there.
Check yourself.
Yeah.
Well, and by the way, the whole I guess he says X-Wing simulator, but there is a storyline that's kind of post-Battle of Endor up to Battle of Jakku, or at least in that time zone, which is, I think, Battlefront 2, is it? Where you do I can't remember the gal's name now. It's something Urso, I believe, but it's not related to Galen.
The TIE Wing fighter?
Well, you start as a member of the Empire.
Yeah.
everything goes down with the Death Star, and then you like slowly kind of convert essentially to the rebellion. It's sort of in that time frame, but it's not a straight up X-Wing simulator, so it's a little bit different. But there is another one that I did with VR.
Yeah.
And that one kind of freaked me out. I put it on. I was like, whoa, this is a little disorienting. I don't know if I can handle VR very well.
I want to, Grant gave me his, well, didn't give, but like I borrowed it. My son wants to play the VR. So we've got the PS5.
Yep.
And we've hooked it up. And I think you can get, I was looking for it, but I think you got to like subscribe to like the EA monthly, whatever. And I think you can play the VR Star Wars. Whatever.
Okay.
But I've heard Grant says it's intense.
It is. It's like it's one of those things where I didn't think anything of it, and then I put it on, and you're looking around, and you see all the control. It's kind of freaky. VR is a freaky thing. I Am Anakin's Father says, I don't really play video games, but I bet an open world bounty hunter game would be fun. Which
they canceled that.
They did, and I mean this Outlaws game. It's not a bounty hunter game, you know, but it is definitely open world and kind of has a little bit of a feel toward that. So if I Am Anakin's Father ever would like to play a game, I would recommend it. What do you think? What era, would you like to see a game in? Like Bad Batch, Clone Wars, maybe Resistance? Yeah.
Actually, yeah. Fuck off.
When I thought about that, I wrote that down, and I thought it would feel like. Do you remember that video game that was a stand-up arcade game called like Dragon Lair or Dragon's Lair or something?
Yeah,
where you're
with
this knight.
Dirk. Yeah.
Yes, and it was always impossible because you had to like do these quick reactions to all these moves.
That is the perfect. If they made a game out of Resistance, it would be that dipshit.
Exactly.
And that,
because he's Bugs Bunny-esque, like you said, Kaz is. It would be perfect.
Yeah. Actually, I might play that just because you came up with the perfect concept for it. Yeah. But I would be like, my goal is like, I have to kill him.
Kill him every time.
Find all the ways
easy
to kill him.
It's pretty easy to do in that game.
Right.
I mean, how many times did you put a quarter in that at like the pizza fucking parlor and and the game's over in like 42 seconds?
You're supposed to go left, you go right. Damn it. Can I get another quarter?
You had to kind of see the matrix and know the pattern, or else you just couldn't make any progress.
Yeah, you have to memorize them.
Brutal. I mean, I'm liking this Outlaws era. I was thinking maybe something in the Imperial Age, kind of prior to A New Hope. So maybe leading up to Rogue One, somewhere in that zone. I kind of like that time frame. You're kind of in the Solo movie era, kind of around there.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Which this is a little bit like Outlaws, but this is that would be earlier. Just kind of to experience the Empire as it builds, and maybe even be a member of the Empire as part of it. That would be kind of fun. That's what I agree.
Thinking. So. I'd play that game.
Well, make it. Somebody make it.
I gotta play this Outlaws game. I can't wait to talk about it. I got a lot of questions for you.
Okay, good. Okay, news. So got a big catch up here. A lot of stuff. So we're gonna go back a bit. So bear with us because some of the stuff we just haven't had a chance to talk about. But first up is on the Mando and Grogu, filming. It's nothing confirmed, but there's a hot rumor that the principal filming wrapped up just recently.
So I heard.
They apparently began filming in June, July, somewhere in there. I think when they started. But that's a fairly quick shoot, right, for a movie? Or do you think that's about right?
I mean,
like July to now?
It is. I know that they said, wasn't there something that we had seen where they weren't shooting in a volume? There were a bunch of practical sets or something they were doing.
There was some of that. And we also saw like a teaser, whatever that was in August or whatever that was. We saw a little teaser. So
and I think they probably have a bulk, like when they go to do reshoots, and they'll probably shoot whatever they have to with Pedro as well.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking too, we're going to get reshoots, and then people will panic. Why are they doing reshoots? It must suck. Because there's reshoots in damn near every movie, it seems, anymore. It certainly seems like they're well on pace for May 2026 if they've I mean, they're in good shape.
And also, I'm sure it was the same crew. It's everybody that's been doing this show for years. So it's a well-oiled machine at this point.
Yeah.
Sure.
I guess in the end, I thought it's promising that it's this far in advance, because so many times we've seen stuff that feels rushed and slapped together, and writers are switching and directors are switching, which we'll get into in a minute. But this one just seemed steady all the way through as far as we know. So I have high hopes for this film because everything seems to be going along pretty swimmingly.
Good. I do too. My big complaint, I guess, is we're going to get the movie and then it sounds like no more, like they're not doing another season after this.
It doesn't seem that way. That would be my guess, is that this is kind of the end of that, at least that part of the story, which, I mean, Mando's been their biggest thing for the last 5 years. So you're going to wrap that up. I mean, granted, there's the Filoni movie coming later, so that'll be a piece of that. And I'm sure you'll see him pop up. But as far as a dedicated show, I think you're right. I think this is it. It'd be weird to go to a movie and then come back to the show. You know what I mean?
Well, they did it with the X-Files.
No, that's true. Good point.
Yeah.
Think about that. Well, or maybe what they're going to do is this gives them enough time to wrap up filming so early that they can get the focus groups involved to dictate what the story should be.
Oh, that pisses me off.
I think we should talk about that as an episode topic at some point.
Okay.
We should get into that and just what that would mean. Yikes. Okay. Moving on. What the hell's going on with the Rey movie? So yeah, it's been quite a roller coaster of news and rumors over the past month or two. First, there was the report that the show was on hold. The movie was on hold, and they were reworking the script. Then Daisy Ridley's like, there's an update coming soon. She's real excited about it. And then it quickly comes out that Stephen Knight's out.
Like the next day.
The next day.
Yeah, she's like, you're going to hear something really soon. Next day, we find out he's out of it. But yeah, I have to believe he's been out of it for a while.
You never hear those in the moment. It's always later.
Right.
And
yeah,
and
and
a
it's
lot
almost
of
like
times,
that information was released because of what she said, because there's no way at this point she's out of the loop that much.
Right.
Like if she's like, you're going to hear something soon, and then she's like, oh, the writer's been fired. I don't think that's what she meant.
There's no way that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, she is the most out of the loop, optimistic actress I've ever seen.
Yeah. Well, not to mention, there's always the possibility too that, and we'll get into this in just one second, but that they already had somebody in mind to pick up the mantle. You know,
I
like
think
this
someone's already
news
been
rarely
hired.
comes out and then they're like in limbo.
Right.
You know what I mean? Unless like the person who left
Unless it's getting leaked somehow, this information is put out when they deem convenient.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's two writers. Well, there were two originally, and then now Stephen Knight that we've lost in this project so far. So, he had submitted a draft or two, and maybe they didn't dig what he had done, and he was like, okay, then I'm out because he's got all this Peaky Blinder stuff coming up. That's possible. Now, you had a theory, which I want to share, but really quickly before we say it, there was something that came through in the Maul Bag from Wax On, Wax Off News, who asked, who should replace Stephen Knight for the Rey writer, maybe even throw in directors in case Obaid Chinoy leaves. And you have a theory about this.
What was my theory? My theory was
it was on Twitter.
Are you talking about the one where I think he was leaving the whole time? This wasn't like a Stephen Knight was fired. This came down to he turned in his draft or two, worked with whatever, and now they're going to bring in another writer to tighten it up. They'll have like a ghostwriter, someone that'll stay on through production on the set, because we knew when he was hired that the Peaky Blinders movie was happening, which he wrote and will direct, and they're going into production on that. If not, they've already started shooting that.
I think it's coming up. Yeah.
It's no secret, like that to me, that was going to happen. Like you can't have a writer go through production when he's also a filmmaker going to do his own thing.
Right.
So,
it's a bit tight.
Yeah. I was wondering if I was thinking, well, they bring Lindelof back, right? And I think he's busy. I'm trying to remember what he went into production on, if it was a movie or a TV show, but he was just hired on something. I want to say he's a showrunner on something with someone else. And so I don't see him coming back. Also, I'm guessing they probably retooled his original idea pretty much, but I want to say it's going to be like someone with a name that's going to come in and have a little bit of clout and also be like a real, because what they're going to want is punch-ups, right? They're wanting like dialogue, I think, is what they're really going to go for. And I wouldn't even be surprised if it ends up being Filoni that just punches it up.
It could be. I saw somebody speculate, does Sean Levy jump into that spot? And the reason why that's interesting is because he's talked about it. I think he's had a writer that's been involved with him for what they were going to do.
Yes.
And he talked about doing this era. And wanting to use, so it would sort of align, but then that means, okay, so Obaid Chinoy's out. You know what I mean? I don't know how that would work.
I mean, they say her name's sticking, and I would be like, here's the thing is, if they fire her, they almost have to hire another woman, right? Because
it's not good for optics.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm right now, I don't think they need any more negative optics.
No,
but like,
plenty.
To be fair, we've only seen, like, we've talked about her documentary stuff. I don't think she's actually made a film, right? She's done the documentary stuff.
I don't know. That's what she's known for, is the documentaries.
Find the best fucking director. I don't give a shit, man, woman. If it's an infant with a huge brain, that's who you get. Like,
now that would be a roll of the dice. That would be a risk. This kid's got great ideas.
He got fucking Planet of the Apes comes in, and just the biggest Star Wars fan.
He does all this finger painting, and these are great concepts. They have to translate the concepts.
These are my storyboard colorings.
Could you imagine the press tour with that kid? I love Star Wars.
Yeah. Can you take your pacifier out, please?
Oh, I just pooped in my pants. I gotta go. Okay. Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, Daisy Ridley just said, I think, just like a couple days ago or something, she was saying how she's seen something. She's like, well, I might have seen something, and we'll find out more soon. And she also had this other quote that was interesting. At one point, she said, I feel like the new ones/new ones will be so interesting. Yeah. Oh, right. Trilogy?
Oh, of course. They're not going into this. They might. They're playing it safe by saying standalone movie, but they're also like, we've got this shit figured out.
Well, I think they've learned that you never say trilogy in advance of seeing how the first one plays out.
I don't know if they've learned anything.
Well, and I mean, the timeline now is fucked because how do you pull this together and hit that December 2026 timeline? I don't think they're going to have a movie for that time.
Well, it really comes down to how much of the script is ready, right? Because they've done all the storyboarding. They've got to announce probably the actors. If the director is sticking around and is happy enough, like we can start with this, and they get a writer on to switch up some scenes or do whatever they need to do, punch it up, right? I think they're going to be good.
But they got to start like in the spring, or they're not going to have enough time.
Yeah,
it's going to be one of those rushed projects, which makes me a little bit concerned. I think that December 26th is in jeopardy.
Well, again, like if you look at the way Marvel does stuff now, I mean, the CGI, they practically got the movie made before they go and direct it.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if Star Wars goes down the same route, but have you ever seen those where like they do the previs stuff?
Well, Star Wars has done some of that previs as well.
Yeah. So if they've already done that, like I said, and it really just comes down to like tinkering with some of the staging or the writing or whatever, and a lot of the stuff sticks, they can jump right in. I don't see an issue.
That's true. I just, from experience of seeing how certain projects have turned out, it makes me nervous when you don't have a fucking fully baked story, or at least a pretty close to fully baked story when you're actually starting to shoot stuff. That makes me nervous.
Maybe Leslie Headland will come in and rewrite it.
Everybody would riot. Well, not everybody. That a certain group would riot.
The more I think about The Acolyte, you can say what you want about some of the story structure, and I'll say you're right with that. But like, you can't deny that she wasn't a fucking uber Star Wars like.
Oh no, she knows her stuff.
Yeah,
she's deeply entrenched in the lore. Clearly.
Yeah, she's almost like Ryan Johnson, where it might just be too much.
Maybe. Yeah. Given the flux of that project, there's been thoughts of, okay, well, maybe James Mangold's next because he's I think he's just about to wrap up his work on the biopic for Bob Dylan.
He's finished with that.
Is he finished now?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So could that movie get bumped up in front of this Rey film potentially? It would. There was talk that he could potentially enter into production late 2025, which is still a ways off. I don't know, and he's got Beau Willimon on the project already. They've been working on the script, so I mean, it's clearly that's been in the works. And the fact that he brought in that guy as a writer is very encouraging because that guy wrote some of the best Andor shit.
As a director who's been busy with back-to-back films over the last year, I don't know how much he's been involved with any of like the previs work or, any storyboarding or, the filmmaking side of things at Lucasfilm when he's been busy doing the other projects. So I'd be surprised if that movie's far enough along. Like that to me would seem like a rushed project.
No, that would. And that's why I think that project's probably more geared toward 2027.
Correct.
So I'm just wondering, are we going to get anything in 2026 beyond Mando and Grogu? Maybe we should bring in, I thought about this the other day. I thought they should have Guy Ritchie do one.
Oh man, that would be pretty awesome.
Bring in Jason Statham, like Mark Strong, some of those guys. Oh god,
that dude can shoot a movie quick too.
He can. I think it would be great. It would be so gritty and it'd be fantastic. Maybe a series he could do. I don't know. Donald Glover, who has been working on a script with his brother for the new Lando film, did an interview a little while back, and he was saying Star Wars can be a bit too serious at times, and he wants to make Star Wars fun again, or misfua. It's not MAGA, it's misfua.
What is that?
Make Star Wars fun again.
Oh, that's what you've got over here in the parentheses somewhere, right? Okay, all right.
So and I think we should make capes and make them available in our store that say that.
Let's do that. Did we ever release our commercial?
Which commercial?
The one commercial that I wrote that each of us do. Did we ever do that?
I don't think we ever finished that.
Because I remember there's the line in there about the Lando capes or something.
I think you're right. I don't know that we ever finished that one. We need to work on that. We need to regroup.
We put some commercials out.
We got a lot of stuff to work on.
We got our shit together.
Exactly. He said the following quote, "I believe we have a responsibility to have enjoyment." I like that. And I just feel like we're lacking in that department. Sometimes it's way too serious. Everything that has to do with the Skywalkers is like so serious. With Lando, I think the best part about him is he's a scoundrel, and I feel like people can relate to that. And he's probably like, man, this war is whack. I need money. Which I feel everyone can relate to. I want to bring fun to Star Wars. I just want it to be fun. I do like that. I do like that attitude. I think that that's what we got a bit of in Solo, even though it obviously didn't get as well received as we'd hoped. Yeah. But there was more of that fun kind of swashbuckling vibe to it. And that's why I'm hopeful that we'll see something like that in his story. I'm actually hopeful we see Ehrenreich show up.
I am too.
I think maybe it's been enough time that people will be sort of okay with him now. I don't know.
I hope so. I hope there's like some stats on Disney Plus or something where they're seen, because to me that is like, it's one of those movies that maybe it didn't do good in theaters, but like just gets played and played and played, becomes like a cult movie, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Which is weird to think of a Star Wars movie becoming a cult movie, but this movie, I've never seen anybody talk shit about Solo.
Well, I've seen one person, Chris Villaseñor.
Oh, that's true.
He's made it his mission in life.
He is such a villain. Why'd you bring him up? I was in such a good mood.
Sorry. Yeah, whenever I look back on that movie, I'm like, it's just a fun movie, Yes. And there's some great characters in there, some fun actors in there. There's got to be more you do with that. You just leave that there where it is and be done with it.
Right.
So I would imagine we'll see some of that crossover with the Lando film. It's got to be. Okay, so series. Let's switch a little bit, talk about series. Andor season 2. Just a couple notes here as we're counting down to maybe next spring when we get that, perhaps.
I believe so.
It was announced that Star Wars Celebration 2025, which will be in Japan in April, added Mads Mikkelsen to its lists of guests, which makes you think, are we going to see Galen Erso in season 2 of Andor? Which would make, of course, a ton of sense, because if you're going to have Krennic, why wouldn't you have Galen Erso?
Right. But it would almost have to be they'd have to have scenes together then, right?
I think you could do that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a 4-year time span there where he would have been working on the project. It's not, we're not meant to know exactly how much time passed, I guess, between when he left the project and was just a farmer, was living that simple life.
Right. That's true.
So I think there's some room to do stuff there. And he's so great. Mikkelsen's so great. You got to get him involved. Also, Alan Tudyk talked a bit about returning to the K2SO role. Frankly, possibly my favorite Star Wars droid. Or at least top 3. I mean, he's awesome. I love that character. He talked about how he had to keep it quiet all along, and how he's like, we basically had to get used to lying about everything because we can't reveal anything, which is fair. But he also said, quote, Tony Gilroy is a very skilled writer. Indeed. He's a big-brained guy. It'll be interesting for people to see K2SO in that world because he was such a smartass, and there was a lot of humor around his being there. And Andor mixed in just a tiny bit of comic relief, but it was a very heavy, serious show.
Yes.
So mixing in a little K2SO comic relief would be kind of, I think, not a welcome thing. Not make it goofy, but but just to introduce that a little bit more and kind of, especially to show the relationship that he develops with Andor. They clearly have a little banter that they, go.
Well, as Andor gets a bit darker, like the character himself, I think you're going to need K2SO.
Yes, to offset it a little bit.
He's going to get to the point where he's just like, killing people. It begins with him going to meet the agent and murdering him right there in the alley. Like he's he turns into he's got some unquestionable morals by the end there. Yeah,
and he's very brooding and stuff. You needed something to take the edge off, I think. And I think K2SO provides that, which will be fun. I still have not rewatched season 1. I need to go back.
Wow.
I mean, I rewatched it back in the day when we did like a review of the whole series, but I need to go back and watch the whole damn thing again. Ahsoka. Allegedly, another rumor, this one I think was from Bespin Bulletin, says that season 2 is due to start filming in April or May, is what they're saying. And I think Natasha Lou Bordizzo said that they would be in the midst of filming in August. So if you start May to August, I guess it would be around that time frame. So essentially looking at late spring, early summer, perhaps.
Now, does this get filmed and produced fast enough where this show will come out before the Mandalorian Grogu movie?
Great question. I was going to ask you this. I think originally I thought that's what they would do. Now I think it's the opposite. I think there's going to be some appearances, a little bit of crossover, because obviously those shows aren't in the same exact space, but they obviously intersect.
Right.
I think you might see a little crossover there in the movie, maybe just enough to set up what happens in the second season of Ahsoka, or at least lead into that a little bit.
Right.
So I think we're going to get that like the second half of 2026.
Okay.
Maybe fall 2026, something like that. That would be my guess, don't you think?
Yes, I do.
There's no way they're going to release it right at the movie, so I think you have a little cushion.
Well, my feeling is you're going. I guess there's not really room for Ahsoka in the Mandalorian Grogu film, anyways, right? But we know that Zed's in it. We know that some of those things in it. But like, you can't really. If the show came out before the movie, then we would probably there'd be more confirmation for us, right? Be like, oh, she's got to be in it, because we think that the next movie, the Filoni movie,
will have
is
more of
kind
her.
of a continuation of the Mandalorian Grogu story.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think two things. One is I think it's you're going to get just a taste of maybe a couple characters we've seen in Ahsoka in Mando, not necessarily Ahsoka. And two, for Max Rebo, I heard him. He said Zed. He meant Zeb. You don't need to send a tweet about it.
Fuck, I did, didn't I? Damn it.
It's like all the times we say Gronk instead of Gonk. He always jumps on those.
Yeah.
It's hard. Podcasting is hard. So switching gears a little bit, another season 2 update, perhaps. Ewan McGregor has said he's had talks with Lucasfilm about a second season of Kenobi. He even said he'd like to do flashback scenes and wear the clone armor like he did in the Clone Wars. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that they'll actually make you said you think they might make it a movie?
I can see, it looks like Lucasfilm is really gearing toward film, right? To me, it's like everything they're going to do now as its show is to test to see if people are interested, make a movie.
Okay.
Right? A bigger budget, bigger thing. They need, but it looks like, and you're watching it almost in any streaming platform now, is they're going back to, we're not releasing it on the streaming platform first. It's going theatrical, then it's coming here. You know, I see that being their big thing. And if you're gonna do like another Obi-Wan Vader big, like I say, make the fucking movie.
Well, yes, a couple things. I have a lot of thoughts. I'm trying to remember the order. One, I don't want to see Vader and Obi-Wan again. I think we saw it. The only way I want to see that is he had mentioned wanting to work with Hayden again. Then do the flashback stuff. If you want to go back and show Clone Wars stuff, great. Like if it's a story about, there's plenty of time there to tell more Kenobi stories if you wanted to, of what he was doing when he was on Tatooine or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think you can do that and have him wake up with these panic dreams and he's had these flashbacks to the Clone Wars and we see stuff like that, because I thought the stuff they showed in Ahsoka was pretty cool. Just that little smoky Clone Wars scene.
Yeah.
I'd be up for some of that, but I don't need to see them fight again. I don't need to see them interact again. Like,
what's the catalyst? What gets them off of Tatooine again then?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, there was that book that, I don't know if you ever read the Kenobi book. It was pretty good. It was more kind of got into stuff that he was doing there on Tatooine, like the Tusken Raiders were involved and all this stuff. It was an interesting story. They could certainly try to make something like that. It would. That
sounds more like the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, exactly, and it would sort of be at odds a little bit with what we saw in season 1 of Kenobi, but they could kind of work around it. I mean, you had what's his butt? Oh my God, who's his master? You know, Liam Neeson. Qui-Gon Jinn shows up at the end of that series. So if you're going to do anything,
as we call him on FACPA, Qui-Gon Jim.
Very well, Qui-Gon James. But I don't need to see him and Vader again. That's just my personal preference. I think we got another fight that everybody griped about, like, hey, I thought they didn't see each other since whatever. But I was cool with the fight that they did, but I don't think you need to do it again. I think the whole concept of testing something out and then making a movie out of it is a good idea. Like, they're probably going, so if we're going to drop 180 million on the Acolyte, why didn't we drop 40 million on the Acolyte to see if it actually played, then make a movie out of it?
Right.
So I like the concept going forward of saying, let's do a slightly smaller budget. It doesn't need to be quite, a tiny little indie budget, but a slightly smaller budget Star Wars project that has a better story, but doesn't blow your socks off with like all the effects or whatever.
Right.
And that builds to a larger story you can tell on the big screen.
Yeah.
I like that concept.
Hey, Lucasfilm, we're ready for the writer's room. I don't know if we've ever talked about that before, but we're available.
We're always available. I know we've been busy. We haven't put out a lot of podcast episodes. That's probably going to not go well. They're not even putting out episodes of their podcast.
They're done. We were going to call them, but they lost interest. We did not.
All right. That was it for Obi-Wan, unless you had anything else?
No.
Okay. Star Wars Outlaws. Okay, so we've talked video games in the show a little bit in the past, but not terribly in depth. Mostly your fault, I would say, Jay.
Yeah, I don't play games much.
I got 6 kids. I got a job. I'm busy. I don't have time to play video games. Cry me a fucking river.
Well, you might talk me into this. Now, first of all, which one did you buy? Which version of the game did you buy?
I bought the second one.
The $100 one?
I can't. Yeah, I think it was the $100. Well, whatever the middle one was. There was the basic game. Then there was the one that had the season pass, which everybody's griping about. I don't even know exactly how that works, but it gives you the option to get the downloadable content later. So that's why I did it. And it was like $20 more. So I was like, whatever. Right. That's the version I got. They had another version. I don't need skins and stuff in the game. I don't need that shit. That doesn't affect my fun in playing a game. So I just went with the middle tier.
Okay.
Well, by the way, I should preface this by saying there'll be some mild spoilers here for the game if you haven't played it yet.
Have you beat it?
No, I've only gotten so far, and I'll get into why, but I've only gotten so far. So there's still bits that, if you're listening to this and you have played further than me, you're going to be like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. It's because I haven't got to that part of the game yet. That being said, so let me run through a few gripes first, just to get those out of the way.
Why not?
So apparently the sales numbers are not great for this game. They've been pretty low. I don't know why. I don't know if that's improved. Some people are thinking maybe it's a long burn and it's going to, because the more downloadable content and stuff, it'll start getting more sales through the holiday season and into the spring, etc. Perhaps. But for whatever reason, it's not doing as well as they'd hoped. It even caused them to go, well, this is also partly due to some of the buggy stuff, but it caused them to Ubisoft. How do you say it? Ubisoft?
Works for me.
Okay.
You're asking me how to say something.
Ubisoft.
Yeah.
It caused them to pause on Assassin's Creed, which was supposed to come out, I think, like in 2 weeks. But now they're going, well, hold on. Let's push it to March because we want to iron out all the kinks, Mm-hmm. Like, maybe have the QA people do their fucking jobs and pick up all these damn bugs.
Sure.
Not to call anybody out.
So was the game rushed, do you think? Was it like, we need to get this out?
I don't feel like it was rushed. I think they just did not. I think they had a timeline they threw out early. Mm-hmm. And they were like, we got to make this timeline. And I think it might have tweaked a little bit toward the end, but there were a few things that came up. So one of the things people are mad about is the stealth because, well, a couple of things. One, Chris Meyer told me about this because he's like, I played Outlaws. I didn't like it as much as Jedi Order because he's like, I just want to fucking go in guns blazing. I don't want to have to sneak around.
Okay.
And there's a bit of sneaking around in this.
Like Splinter Cell?
Yeah, it's kind of, but yeah, I mean, to a degree, yes. Because I played that game a little bit back in the day, and there were times where I'd get frustrated. Like, can I just fucking kill this guy and not have to like sneak around him every time? But the people's gripes with the stealth mode was that it was almost like too difficult. Like you had to fucking nail it exactly or else you were going to get caught every time. And then you have to start the damn mission over again.
Back to Dragon's Lair.
Exactly. So it's like that. So I guess they just released a patch that I suppose is supposed to fix some of that stuff. Okay. I don't find it that bad. I'm okay with some of the stealth stuff.
But I feel like this is stuff that you find out when you buy the game. So what was it that made people not buy the game? That's strange to me because like visually, just seeing the trailers and everything, I'm like, I'm playing this game. This game looks amazing. And some of the complaints we saw was like, well, the girl's ugly or it's a girl. Right. Like, first of all, like maybe there's something wrong with me, but I'd rather play a game where I'm watching the girl's ass walk around all the time than the dude's. That's just, how I am.
Right. Well, and that's a thing that comes up a lot because now you get a lot more games that have come out lately and they give you the chance to be like, do you want to play as the man or the woman and all that kind of stuff? And then people get all mad and go, oh, it's woke and blah, blah, blah and all that stuff. And it's like, every game has been a guy, like pretty much. Right. So it's okay to have a woman in the main role. I mean, other than like Tomb Raider, name a game franchise that's been big with a woman as the lead. Not very many.
Well, it looks like a fun character.
Yes, she is. That's the other thing. I mean, I'll get into that in a minute because her character's kind of fun. And the gal who plays her, Umberly Gonzalez, I know you're a fan.
Oh yeah,
she did a great job. She's
gorgeous.
It's a fun game. So
also she seems like she's really into it. Like she seems like this is like a fun thing for her. Like she's a fan before and after. She communicates with the people. Like she just seems like a really fucking cool person. Like a Star Wars geek at herself. And I saw a little bit of the behind the scenes in some clip a while back, and it's like doing that mocap stuff's got to be so weird. Right. Because you're just walking around a room with a bunch of like blue or whatever, green, and you're like, okay, now you're walking up to a Jawa and you need to lean down and say this. It's so weird. Did you ever see, hold on, his name's escaping me. It's right there on the Doctor Strange. The movie? No, the actor's name. Oh, sorry. I'm thinking of the other one. Doctor Strange is Benedict Cumberbatch. Benedict Cumberbatch. Did you ever see him doing was it Smaug, the dragon? Oh, the Hobbit movies? Yes, right. Mm-hmm. You ever seen him in the green suit? Just like him crawling around and... Well, same with our boy, what's his face, who played Gollum, I mean, he like made that character, he made himself be the mocap for that character more than they were originally going to do just because he got into it and crawled around and stuff. Yeah, he was amazing.
To the point where I think they said he had like major back problems after the shooting because he was moving around so much like that.
Holy shit.
Yeah, dedication to the craft. So there are some bugs that can be kind of annoying. Like one time I got stuck in a wall and literally couldn't die. And I was like, oh no. Like I'm trying to throw grenades at myself to blow myself up and start over. And I couldn't. That only happened once. But it's annoying because then you're like, I got to go back to a previous autosave or whatever.
Right.
Speaking of that, the bigger issue I had was I'm a good 20 hours into this game, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this, and you get these different missions and stuff. And so you can like, when you go into your little journal and pick which mission you want to do, it'll show you where it is on the map and all that stuff. And then you can click like track and that'll be like the yellow thing that you're following to do.
Okay.
I had went to track this one mission. It wouldn't let me leave the fucking planet. I couldn't move on. The game, I could not move on. So I was stuck. So I look online and everybody's like, yeah, it's a bug. There's nothing you can do. You literally have to
start over.
You have to start over unless you had like a save that was before that happened, which I didn't because it does auto saves throughout.
Uh-huh.
I had to start the whole fucking game over.
Like, that would piss me off.
So annoying.
Yeah.
So of course, you're able to breathe through some stuff and skip the cutscenes and all that stuff to get caught up. But still, it's like, dude, fucking, that's a major issue. So that kind of stuff is a problem. And I get why people are mad about that. It does. So this game has I don't know if you ever played Red Dead Redemption.
Nope.
To me, it seems like a lot of Red Dead Redemption, but in space. It's a lot of like your singular character going on missions, big expansive world, not necessarily linear. Like some of the quest stuff is linear, but a lot of stuff, there's a lot of side missions and everything. So, I mean, you can spend a lot of time. My hunch is you could probably play this game all the way through if you just focused on the main quests in like 35, 40 hours, I would guess.
I think that I've seen people, they beat it like the weekend it came out.
Yeah. People go through those really fast.
Yeah.
But they're like on a mission to just get through the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
You can spend 150 hours playing this game. I mean, like there is so much you can sit there and do with side missions and stuff. So that's kind of cool. So if you really enjoy the game, you can take your time and it's great because it can go on for a long time. Let's talk about the good. So the audio is great. I like the theme music. I love the incorporation of Star Wars music. They also incorporate a lot of familiar sounds and tunes in certain situations. So like at one point you're on this like Imperial space station or whatever, or ship. And all of a sudden you're hearing that kind of sneaking around music from A New Hope when they're on the Death Star. So that comes into play. So there's a lot of like feels and nostalgia stuff that they throw at you, which makes the game really fun. Visually great. Like very lived in. Cool environments. I mean, Tatooine alone, you get to walk all over Tatooine, which is cool. I mean, that was one of my gripes kind of with the Jedi Fallen Order game. The Survivor, the sequel, it was like, oh, you can go to Jeddah. And I'm like, sweet, you get to go to Jeddah? Well, you don't really go in the city. You're just like on the planet in the outskirts. It's like, well, this isn't fun because they didn't build all that stuff out. But in here, I mean, granted, the cities aren't enormous, but they're pretty big. Like you got to run around all these different places and it definitely feels like those places that we see on the screen, which is really cool.
Is there like, does it open up with like a cinematic, like how do we learn who this character is and what her deal is?
You literally like wake up in bed. Get up and she's very kind of green when it comes to this whole, what she's going to go through. So she learns a lot as you go. Like she's pretty raw when you first, encounter the character. You start on Canto Bight.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
So she lives on Canto Bight?
She lives on Canto Bight, yep.
Is she one of them fucking kids?
With the ring?
Have she been to Epstein Island?
Oh, man. Palpatine Island? Yeah, no, you kind of start that way, and then you just have to start like she kind of figures stuff out. And that's kind of one of the cool things about the character and how she portrays it is she's real kind of like loose and like free-spirited about everything, kind of like, I'll figure it out, whatever. And so that's kind of fun and adds some comic relief. You also have this, and well, first of all, the overall mission you're doing is like when you first start out, you break into this person's vault. This guy named Slero, I think is his name.
So she's a thief.
She's a thief.
She's already a thief. Okay.
She's a scoundrel, a thief, a pirate, kind of like that. She's very much a Han Solo-esque character.
Okay. But
like a young version.
She's right. And is she someone who has never left Canto Bight? Like, is she kind of doing her thing there, and it, like something happens to send her off to a bigger? Okay.
Yes. Right. And so this it starts off, you encounter the Slero guy who's like the head of some new syndicate. It's all about the syndicates too. Like as much as the Empire and the Rebellion are talked about and you see them, especially more so the Empire. It's really about the syndicates. It's the Pikes. It's Crimson Dawn.
Well, it makes more sense as a scoundrel or a pirate that you're going to deal with that world than you would the Empire.
Exactly.
Like to her, it's just let's avoid them.
Right. Yeah. So it's definitely that. I mean, you're gonna like, and there's a big thing with reputation. So you start out with like a poor reputation with all these syndicates, but then like you do a job for Crimson Dawn, and all of a sudden you're in their good graces. But maybe that pissed off the Pikes, and now that your thing slumped with them. So you kind of have to try to balance out. Your
so this reminds me, like, because I haven't played video games in so long, but like one of the open world games where like you were looked at like that with like reputation, or like you could change how you were looked at by people was Fable. Did you ever play Fable?
Oh, I never played Fable.
You could go like, if you did bad things, you kind of become a bad character. Or if you did good things, you would go into town and people would know you for good things. Is it sort of like that?
It's like that, except the only difference is it's not necessarily a good or a bad, because you're trying to please different syndicates who are all kind of shady. So it's, who are you being shady for?
Who are you? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, who are you loyal to?
Right, exactly. So it's a lot of that, and then at the beginning, like I said, you do this job where you end up breaking into this guy's vault, but he catches you, and so then you kind of have to go back, and then the overall mission is to get back to like build a crew, put the crew together to get back in, and actually, which it made me think of the crew building thing. I thought, oh god, I hope you have to spend all this time building the crew, and then it's like MacGruber, where then they all blow up in a fucking
like Deadpool.
Yeah,
Deadpool
2. The characters, like I said, Kay is great. I mean,
is it Kay Vess?
Kay Vess, yes. And like I said, she starts out kind of new. She's got, well, a couple things. One, I got to tell you, Kay Vess, much like Cal Kestis, don't get in a pull-up contest with these two.
Oh, really?
They are climbing all over the place. They are flinging their bodies all over the place.
They work on their core.
They have very strong upper bodies, very strong core. Must not weigh more than $120, or she probably weighs 100 pounds. Because they just fling themselves all over. It rivals the Nathan Drake character in Uncharted. It's just you're climbing all over everything and jumping, leaping from stuff to stuff. There's also, they've got the adorable sidekick Nailed, because this little guy Nyx is like a little puppy dog that goes around with you, and he's great. Guess who voices Nyx?
I feel like I heard this.
Give me the obvious one. Who does voices for Star Wars like nobody's business?
Oh, the guy that does all the clones.
D. Bradley Baker, yeah.
Yes.
So he apparently does the voice for Nyx, which is funny because it's a lot of like, and it's like just little noises. I love how they bring him in for that.
Those are just like noises they pulled while he was doing the voices for Bad Batch when he was getting bored in between takes.
Yeah, or like hungry. Nyx is a key part of it, because Nyx is with you all the time and like can go up and steal stuff from people and like get into open a door that you can't get into and things like that. So
do you play as Nyx at times? Is it like, okay, now, and you're like, do, and you're running around?
You just send Nyx to do stuff.
Oh, okay.
So like you'll go, you can even to the point where like you play a lot of Sabacc in this game. Just you gotta get used to Sabacc.
Do you learn it? You actually know how to play it?
Yeah, I know how to play it.
Yeah?
Well, so when we were in Disney World last spring, one of my sons got a Sabacc game, so I kind of sort of learned it. I mean, I'm not a great Sabacc player by any means, but I get the gist of it.
All right.
It's a very simple game.
Yeah.
But you can like send him to go look at somebody else's cards and shit while you're playing and stuff like that. So he's very useful, and he's just kind of silly, so it's kind of fun. There's another character that ends up teaming up with you, like I guess you'd call it your contact, this other guy who's kind of like your friend of sorts. He supplies you with this modified battle droid called ND5.
That's the badass with the fucking bazooka over his shoulder on the car. Yeah, okay.
And he's real sassy. Like, it's a combination of like he's real cynical, but he's also kind of sassy with her.
Okay.
And then as far as some of the people you see too. So because you're dealing with Crimson Dawn, Kira's in it. Yeah. You see her quite a bit. Jabba's palace, you go in there and you see him and Bib Fortuna and the Rancor and Han Solo and Carbonite. That's all in there.
Okay.
So that's cool. I just met Lando, which is interesting because he told me to go to like some Sabacc game, but there's a downloadable content piece coming, I think, in later in November, where you go to some tournament, and he's at the tournament. So I guess they built into the game that you're first meeting with him, but you really see him more when you go.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely not Billy D. Williams' voice. I can tell you that.
Really?
No, because the Kira voice, I don't think it's actually her.
They didn't use her likeness either, did they?
It looks sort of like her.
Okay.
I mean, it's pretty close, but it sounds a lot like her.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they've got the voice nailed there. But yeah, Billy D. Williams, I guess, hard voice to replicate. It doesn't quite sound like him. You also, I mean, it's so silly. You even like, at one point you're on Tatooine and you go up and you run into, or maybe it's not even on Tatooine. It might have been on Tashar. I can't remember. But you encounter R5 and he's still got a bad motivator.
Really?
And so one of the little side missions is you have to go get him a new motivator. And he's like, thank you so much, or whatever he says in his droid talk. So it's just a lot of that stuff. I mean, there's a lot of like familiar lore in this game that makes you kind of puts you into that place, especially from the original trilogy stuff. Like you go to Chalmun's Cantina on Tatooine. There's a part where you're sitting there and they're talking about don't go sit in that booth. It's cursed. The one where Han Solo shot Greedo.
Yeah, first.
You hear people talking about like there's some wizard that lives out in the Junlan Wastes and we haven't seen him in a long time. It's just a lot of little subtle references. Like there's literally a point where you overhear a stormtrooper say something like, "I don't know what everybody's like complaining about. I love sand."
Now, if you can run around, can you go out like in the desert and try to find Obi-Wan?
Well, I don't think so. I guess I've heard that you can actually go to Luke's farm.
Oh, really?
But I have not done that yet. But you can't. I mean, that's the thing. When you get on these worlds, there's the city, but then there's all these missions that are out all over the place, all over the planet and around. You do a lot of speeder bike because you got to fucking make, and you're on, like sometimes you're on the speeder bike for a few minutes to get to your destination. It takes a while.
Tashi's?
I don't know if they have Tashi on there. That's a good question. Right? Yeah.
What, I forget when does this take place between, or is this between Empire and Return or is it just after Return?
Between Empire and Return because Han's in Carbonite. Right,
because Han's in the Carbonite. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's in that little 1 year zone or whatever that is. I'm trying to think what else I was going to say about. I mean, like the way you grow during the game, it's a lot of times in games you just build up experience points, then you can use them to like apply towards certain skills. That's how Jedi Fallen Order works. This is not that way. This is like you have to have a specific mission where you encounter somebody who teaches you how to do something, and then you gain that ability. Okay. So again, it's not as linear as it is with other experience games. You actually physically have to go to these different places to get these different skills, which is kind of fun.
And some of these, like you have to do the side quest to get that skill.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So like I said, it's as great of a game as you're enjoying it. If you, which sounds kind of dumb to say, but if you're into it and enjoying like the nuances of the game, you can play it forever because it's just it's giving you everything you want. At times, I could see where people would be like, "Oh, some of this stuff maybe is a little redundant or it's a little tedious." But if you're enjoying it and enjoy the whole experience, it's great because it just keeps going and going and going and going. You have all this room to roam.
So you have the first patch, but that doesn't come out till November. Does that come out around Thanksgiving?
I think it's November 21st.
And then the second one was like March, right?
I think it's February or March, and that's when you see Hondo is going to show up.
Okay. And now, did they decide not to make any more?
You make a sequel to this game?
Not a sequel, but like there will be no more downloadable content.
That's a good question. I don't know.
Is it not selling that well for them to continue? Like I'm wondering.
I bet you whatever happens during this holiday season will dictate that.
Okay.
Because if they get more sales because the Christmas is coming up and all that, and they get this downloadable content coming out and people know that's in.
Yeah, because when did this game come out?
Late August.
Okay, so yeah, it's not really. It kind of came out at a time where there was no special like holiday or anything. So yeah, maybe it will sell.
Yeah.
I haven't played it yet, but like it just sounds like such a cool game. Like I'd like to see it.
It's a fun game. I mean, like I said, it's one of those games where you can't just sit down and play it for 20 minutes. You should probably sit down and play it for like an hour and a half.
Okay.
And then you get it to a certain point and you're just like, okay, save the game. That was an issue early on, by the way. It felt like you could never save the game. Like it was always grayed out. I'm like, where do I have to go? What do I have to complete to save the fucking game?
So you got to play for a bit the first time before you get to a save.
You do. And they've cleaned up some of that, I guess, to make more save points than they used to have. I think that was a gripe that they kind of fixed. They're certainly listening to the gripes and trying to fix things to make the game better. And they're using that to inform what they're doing with Assassin's Creed's next game. So it's all kind of tied together.
What's the consultant think of this game?
He likes it. He played it like crazy when it first came out, and then I don't think he's played it lately.
Okay.
But he does enjoy the game. I didn't ask him if he likes it more or less than Jedi Survivor and Fallen Order. I should ask him that, but I didn't ask him that.
Are these games are the two you just listed, Fallen Order and Survivor, are those on the EA?
Oh, I'd imagine
membership thing.
I'd imagine they are. You would like Fallen Order for sure. You would like Fallen Order for sure. I think I liked Survivor okay. I thought it was okay, but I thought Fallen Order was better.
Okay.
And the Cal Kestis character is a really cool character.
Yeah.
There's been rumors forever about will we see him in live action, which would be great because that Cameron Moynihan guy is great, and so it looks just like him. It's literally his likeness. You do. I mentioned you're on Canto Bight. You go to Kijimi, where what's her face was. Oh God, Zori Bliss was Kijimi. That like.
Oh right, yeah, okay.
You go there. Tashara, Akiva, Tatooine. That might be it. There's also a lot of stuff in space where you're out like on a space station or whatever, and you do stuff like that. It's very large world to work in. So I would highly recommend it to anybody who's, especially if you've got that nostalgia love for that kind of era. I think it'll be right in the zone for you.
I'm gonna see if I'm gonna grab this, and if my kid likes it, then I have a reason. Then I'll play more.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I'll play with my son
And you could even tag team it if you wanted to.
Yeah.
If you wanted to share the progress, you could,
Mhm.
but you could do multiple saves and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Like I said, all in all, I really enjoy the game a lot. It's I don't need the Jedi focus. I'm okay with it not being that. I've always kind of made my opinion on that clear that I do like kind of the lived in Star Wars world. That's
Do you
not
run
necessarily-
into any like type Jedi character, or is
I
there
haven't
any
run
of
into
that?
any Jedi stuff
Nothing
yet.
like that.
There was a
Okay.
High Republic reference because at one point you see like a High Republic cruiser that's crashed and you go
Okay.
kind of run through that a little bit. So it does touch on all those different things, but I think it's a cool way to present a game to make it so open and allow you to do so many different things. And yeah, I couldn't recommend it more. If those
Okay.
types of things are interesting to you, you should definitely get it.
Okay. I'm gonna check it out.
Let us know what you think, folks. If you like the game or if you played it yet, I do recommend it for sure.
It's not one of those games where you can play with another person online.
I don't
Right.
think there's any way to do that now. I think it's
Okay.
just a single campaign kind of
Right.
game. Unless I'm missing something where there is some sort of online mode, I think it's just this the campaign mode.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, well, that was it for Star Wars Outlaws. Now to the Maul Bag. Just one email. Well, we had two technically. We talked about the other one earlier.
Right.
Max Rebo's back. I hope you had another satisfactory hiatus. It's been reported Neil isn't an Ortolan, but I still hope he has a groovy Max Rebo poster in his bedroom. I think someone at Lucasfilm came out and said that Neil character is not an Ortolan, but like its own new species.
So it's a new. Okay.
Yeah, so not quite an Ortolan, which I'm like, oh, come on, just be an Ortolan. It's fine.
Right.
We've only ever seen one.
Mhm.
It's okay to show another one. They have to come from somewhere.
Have you seen the new picture where he's like bored in the classroom?
Yeah. Yeah. Some of those images are great. I anything I've been finding on Skeleton Crew, I just throw into like a little list for our
Okay.
preview episode for us to go through that in depth because we'll do that in a few weeks or so.
Right.
And then he says, I have nothing else to talk about, but I would like to promote someone else. Hybrid Toy Review, which is on YouTube and Instagram, is running a raffle for his local Toys for Tots and has some really cool prizes. So go check out Hybrid Toy Review.
Okay. We'll let it slide.
I'll put it in
It's
the
a
show
promo
notes.
for someone else, but it's an important thing for kids. So we'll let it slide.
Yeah, we always support causes
know.
like that. And that's kind of it. I mean, I was going to say, like I mentioned before, we will do another episode, possibly with a guest, or maybe we'll do some other topic, whatever. And then we'll get into our Skeleton Crew preview, which will be closer
So we're going to try and stick to a bi-weekly until the show comes out. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, I was thinking we would do one more episode in between now and the preview episode, which will be right
Okay.
around Thanksgiving. And then we go right into the show starting December 3rd and do
All
our
right.
week-by-week stuff then, and then we'll see where that goes. But
Do we know how many episodes it is? Didn't they release the titles? Is it 8 episodes or 10 episodes?
I thought it was 8, but now
Okay.
I'm not sure. I can't remember if I've looked lately. I think it's 8. Did they release
All right.
titles of the episodes? I didn't see that.
They released titles for something.
Okay, that's
I
possible.
read so many fucking Hollywood things, so I don't know if it was that show or what it was.
All right, well, that's it.
That's it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for staying subscribed and for listening. So until next time, see you in 2 weeks.
Laugh it up, fuzzballs.
We have spoken.